Hello and welcome to my Higurashi Tatarigoroshi theory sheet video, where I will be going over some of my theories and ideas of both the mysteries in this art and, I don't know, just some overall stuff. If you are new here and this is your first video, then I do have the full playthrough of this and the previous arts on the channel, and I do have a review of Tatarigoroshi. This is purely for some ideas, both good and bad. I don't know how well they are, but I'm satisfied, surprisingly. This is different. I know every time I do a theory sheet video, the format changes. I kind of look back and the Tatarigoroshi one's actually horrible. I feel bad for anyone who actually tried to read that, because that was just a bad idea. I mean, it was a good idea in my head, but the execution was like horrible, so yeah. And the second Watanabe was kind of solid, but I just dumbed it down. Instead of doing evidence, I kind of just put a highlighter, then wrote about my theories. Just probably in some of them there's more than one theory. Yeah, it's more laziness. If I was doing it correctly, I would put like an evidence subheader. I'd probably get rid of evidence against the theory. I don't know why I had that too, just to show that, hey, I know this. I'm not saying this is 100%. Here's some evidence against it, but it's kind of dumb. So yeah, I kind of just bundle it all up into a subheading and talk about it like that. So we have about 10 sheets, not including the title page. So I'm fairly happy with this. And even if I am lazy, I feel like if I do have to work hard for one theory thing, it would be for the last one, since that's the last question art. I don't know if I'm gonna need to do any more theory making in the answer arts. That's where we get our answers, right? So yeah, we'll end it off with a bang, but let me pass this through, since I just wanted to get on with it, to be honest. So first off, we do have the title page with this glorious picture of Satoto. I know in my review I said the best, my favorite CG was like her baseball ones, but this picture is so good. I don't know why. It just doesn't. It's such an ugly looking face. But it's great. That's an instant classic. Just a disclaimer, if you somehow get to this document, I don't know how you would, but I put the link to the video, which obviously is blank right now since I'm recording the video, but after that I will put it in. And then I just say I would recommend watching the video, since I will going over the theories. And it might be clearer, I guess, since my writing, even though I try to be formal, it's not the best, and it might be confusing, so I might clear up any points that you may or may not have. And of course, if you do have any questions and stuff about the theories, feel free to ask. I will respond. I think in the past, a viewer would make a document responding to all my theories and kind of like playing devil's advocate and dispelling them, but I think he's left for some reason, probably because in one of my responses I was a little mean. So we might not have that, but I'm not saying you have to do that. But if you need to question it without trying to actually spoil anything, you know, just neutral questions, feel free to ask. I will not be offended, really, if you say they are bad, because I mean, some of them are definitely questionable, but they're more just fun stuff. So without further ado, let's get started. So first off, this is, I should have changed the title just to stuff, since all the other theories about people, I just put stuff. It's basically Tomodachi stuff. So I'll just read what I wrote, which I hate, because whenever I read what I write, I'm just like, oh, I should have done this and that, but it's too late now, Aiden. Just read it with a highlighter. With the questionnaire coming to a close soon, I think it's time to stand on this sort of vague, to take a stand on this sort of vague character. Throughout the series, Tomodachi has been an easy target of suspicion. Mainly the fact that it is confirmed in Higurashi that uses a fake identity through a hint by the police people when they're doing an autopsy of his body, so I'm pretty sure that would be, it's like almost hard proof that he's using a fake identity. That also means everything about him is a lie and he's not taking photos of Hinamizawa for a magazine. I think he said he's a bird watcher, but that's clearly false. But there's never any chance to get more information out of him because he dies at the midpoint in every arc and he is always the same when you don't get to see him. That's a little vague, but we don't really get new information. Like, we know he's sort of a nice guy, he likes taking pictures, there might be a relationship with him and Takano, but we never get a true deep dive. Like, we kind of saw a bit more of Takano's, like, how vicious she might be in this arc, but in Tomodachi's case, we just never see anything, so that's what I meant by that. I used to believe that he was working together with Takano as a member of the Outsider group. I should have put a glossary to that, but Outsider group is, of course, if you've been following my other theories, is sort of a, well, I think I've changed it to like it was Group X once, but it's basically a group of people who are working on stuff like that are not part of the Hinamizawa village, so not the Sonozakis, but it would be more in the line of making the secret drug and stuff like that. Sort of like an outsider force. Maybe I didn't mention it much in watching Higurashi since I didn't think they had much influence there, but yeah, it goes together with my clinic theory, that I think that the people working at the clinic are part of the outsider group. So like Takano and Irie would be the new addition, or part of it. I've claimed that Shion might be a part of it because she doesn't seem to really respect the Hinamizawa traditions like Mion does, so maybe she would have joined with that group. Something of that sort, basically. I just called them the outsider group. And yeah, I naturally, because of how close Tomodachi and Takano are, it's and his fake identity, it's not that much of a stretch to believe he is in the outsider group. But with new information available, I've changed my opinion. I believe Tomodachi is some sort of government agent and is working alone, being in a separate group than the outsider group. This, I don't know, I said it like that, but this means that I believe that he is part of the government, a government agent. His appearance is extremely soldier-like, which made me believe the outsider group was a government-operated organization, or was government operated. Yeah, that was fine. But because of the ending and the slow reaction time for the disaster, I believe the possibility has lowered. I don't know if that's a good reason, but I don't know if because if it was a government organization or group or whatever, I feel like, because there are people, because the clinic would be part of the organization, I think they would have a better scope of the situation, right? Or they would actually try to help the group members leave or whatever. Or alternatively, I guess a theory that I didn't write down is maybe they are part of the government organization and this was a way to silence them to take the research. I don't know, but yeah, that's what I meant by that. While I don't know While I don't know exactly what his objective is, it is clear he is surveilling Hinamizawa around the time of the festival every year. That's when he comes, and that's when he takes his pictures for his quote-unquote magazine. It is also possible that he is friends with Takano because she is researching Hinamizawa, or he could be aware that she is part of the outsider group and his objective is surveilling him. So I think this is the biggest thing I want to take out of this is I thought that the two were working together because I've also made the theory that Takano might be using a fake identity too. But yeah, they both seem like sketchy characters, but I've never come to the possibility that maybe they're different. Maybe they're not working together, and I don't think I mentioned this, but actually we'll get to it when we talk about Takano, but I don't think I wrote it down, so see, this is why you should watch the video. Lots of bonus information. But like if Tomotaki's whatever his objective is, if it is some sort of surveillance, it would be natural that he would befriend Takano, who is also researching Hinamizawa too. So that's, and again, if the government is like opposed to the outsider group, then that's also a reason why. So there's a couple of reasons. I just wanted to bring that fact in light because I'd never really thought of the fact. Since they're mostly seen together, right? So you just, and they even again hint at our relationship. So I think thinking of two different parties is a good mindset for the future. Yeah, and then I put, that's being said, it's still obviously very working together. Those are like the two big theories for it, but I just wanted to like add this theory in. But I like it. Obviously all the soldier stuff might just be a red flag, but you know, we take what we get. That is my motto. I am for all the hints that they give me. Moving on to my next theory called Satoko is smelly. Brackets meme theory. I didn't actually have a meme theory section like I usually do, just because all my meme theories are usually the same, right? The simulation, the cloning stuff. So I just put brackets. I think I have a couple, right? That's kind of a meme. This is, oh yeah, we'll get to that. That one was kind of insane. But this is one I did mention through my playthrough. So we'll read it. I can't highlight it all, but we'll read this first. So Choco goes through a lot in this art, if that wasn't evident. Some examples include the uncle calling her smelly and dumping miso soup on her, or forcing her to boil herself while in the bath. While I won't deny that he is a horrible human being, and that could easily be the reason why he committed those specific acts, for whatever reason, my mind has decided to hyper-focus on this point, and has made multiple reasons of why he committed those acts. Using this theory, I believe that the uncle really did think that Satoko smelled unbearable and abused her because of that. Obviously, that's not the only reason, but I'm basically stating that maybe, just maybe, instead of being a complete asshole, the uncle actually really thought, or at least really experienced a bad smell from Satoko. Most of these are rehashes from what I said in the playthrough, but I'll just talk about it again since I think it's kind of funny. It's a fun theory. The upcoming 3 theories are to speculate why Satoko smells so bad to the uncle. I also think that at the core of these 3 theories, the reason why only the uncle thinks Satoko smells bad while everybody else doesn't notice anything is because he is an outsider who recently moved into the village. It is true that he has only been a year for about a year. Hello? He has only been a year for about a year. He's only been gone for about a year. Well, that's embarrassing. It's in caps lock. Even worse. There we go. Some pronto editing on the fly. Gone for about a year, but this is still a relatively long time. So perhaps after leaving out of the village for so long, he notices the smells that the others would not. So basically all three of these theories kind of hinge on the fact, because if you do go with this theory, you also have to acknowledge that nobody else comments about Satoto's smell, even being with her. And while it's true that the uncle has been with her longer, but like actually living, so more time spent with her, like Rika has never commented about it. And even at school, I don't know how long this rural school system would be in comparison to a normal school, but if it is like normal high school, it's like 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours, something like that. So they are with her for the majority of the day, so you have to. So my reason is that maybe it's because the uncle just recently moved here and he just doesn't notice the smell that everybody else has noticed. Used to, because one, maybe they all smell the same, or two, it's just been the norm for them and they've been living with it so long they don't notice it, which is a real thing, right? So the first idea brings back the idea of using a mysterious drug. If a majority of the Hinamizawa is under the influence, then I think it's possible that if it does have a side effect of giving off a smell, then an outsider smell, then an outsider who lives with a Hinamizawa resident may eventually take notice of the smell, while the others who don't spend as much time together would not. That's a mouthful, but it's basically saying that sorry, I lost my thought. This is basically saying that for whatever reason, because again the drug has been, it's been talked about in Anatatashi, not so much in Watanagashi. It's been kind of hinted back at this one. But basically I've been saying that either having the dread in you maybe makes it give off a weird smell as a side effect, or maybe you can say the dread is airborne or whatever, and that also gives a weird smell. But for whatever the reason is, that's what's causing the smell, which makes sense if you believe in some sort of drug theory. And it would also make sense if why the others wouldn't smell it, because the majority of Hinamizawa, if not all of them, would have been injected with the drug at some time, so they wouldn't notice it. So that's like one of the things I did. Another theory includes the moving corpses that are seen in both Watanagashi and here. This would assume that Satoto is a corpse from either sometime earlier in this art's universe, the corpse from Watanagashi, or a corpse from before Anatatashi. The logic about the smell would be the same as the previous theory. So this is me saying that if you do believe that, I don't know, corpses are actually coming back to life for whatever reason, maybe it's because she's really dead and he's smelling a corpse, and Hinamizawa is just a village of dead people. It's kind of interesting because I did have a meme theory, which I didn't repeat in here, but in Watanagashi I made the idea that what if like the Mion's corpse that they find, that the police find at the end, is the Mion from Anatatashi, that Mion's body, because it was killed like by blunt force with Keiichi's bat, so the wounds wouldn't look too different. I don't know if Keiichi made her into mush or whatever, but it'd be like similar wounds, I'd imagine. So something like that, where the corpses from a previous arc, because the only arc that we've read that where Satoto died would be in Watanagashi, so it could have been from that arc, or or sometime before, if you assume that there is like a true arc before everything, depending on how you handle. What's your idea about like the identity of the arts? Is it like a hard reset or soft reset? Whatever you think about it, something like that. I kind of like that one. But the final theory is also a little bit of a combination of this one. I think I do mention it. I see that the word corpse. So the final, let's highlight it. So the final theory, which I like the most, would be that Satoko is somehow related to the disaster at the end of the arc. Keiichi described the son of the Tatsugasa as rotten aged, which is one of the worst most possible, and I think maybe Teppei, when Satoko was freaking out about Teppei throwing soup at her, she might have said that he's told her that she smells like rotten eggs. I might not. I don't remember. If you do know that fact for whatever reason, feel free to let me know if you want. While it is sort of a leap, these two incidents are the only time bad smells are mentioned in the arc, so it's not that out there to connect them. So I think this was a pretty easy connection for me. As soon as I heard Keiichi talking about how it smelled like bad eggs, my brain went immediately back to Satoko to connect them. This could mean either Satoko spends a lot of time at the swamp, she somehow knew about the upcoming disaster and was possibly interacting it, or she died from the gases before and is a moving corpse. So all of these are fine, and they're both kind of eerie. Like, why is Satoko at the swamp? Does she know that maybe Satoshi's vanished there? So it could have been like an innocent thing. The idea of someone knowing about the disaster coming and possibly interacting with it it's kind of a stretch. That's almost like saying Satoko planned the disaster, but let's be honest, if a singular person in Hinamizawa could pull off the disaster, it has to be the trap master Satoko. but for real, like, again, this just goes with the swamp, I guess, that maybe she was around the swamp at the time when the gas was building up. Or the last one, which I kind of like, is she died from gases and is a moving corpse. So if the story is looping somehow, even though I don't think it is looping, we'll go into that. But I think it's possible in a previous timeline before Anutatashi or Watangashi, or I guess even like after we stopped reading it, if it's still continued on for whatever reason and the gas did happen. It kind of goes with the previous one where she actually died from the gas, or the whole village died from the gas. So and they came back as corpses, and they wouldn't notice the smell because it's really ingrained with them and it's part of them, while Teppei, who is new there, would notice. So a couple of smelly theories in this one. I liked it. I think this is definitely a prime meme theory. I don't know if any of these are correct. This is again more from instinct about the smell stuff, but I like it. I think it's a solid dank meme. Next, we will be doing Doppelganger Keiichi. Let's highlight. One of the tricky mysteries in this arc is the fact that while Keiichi was murdering Satoru's uncle, apparently another Keiichi was at the festival having fun with the club members. Obviously, it's impossible for it to have been Keiichi from our perspective since we saw him killing Teppei. So the question of if there was another Keiichi Maiburo was raised. One of the easiest answers for this is that people were lying about it, saying that he was there but he wasn't. But the fact that it wasn't just the club members, but both Tomita and Okamura also claimed that they were with him, and other people in the class. Like, the whole situation, like the whole class was acting funny when that happened. So it's hard to, unless the whole class was lying, it's hard to say that it was just a lie. And it would also seem weird for Rita to lie since that hasn't been really shown in her character so far. What am I doing? Oh. And I'm not saying, obviously Rita has kept information and probably knows stuff about the incidents that she hasn't told us yet, but we haven't seen her outright lie about something, and this is kind of a weird lie, and she didn't really show any creepy mode, so yeah. The theory I currently favor is a sort of meta theory, but I think that this arc has been highlighting meta ideas constantly. Supporting these kind of theories, even the curtain call was talking about looking at the story in a big picture rather than the arc itself. Self-explanatory. But this theory I really put it in like literally every other theory, so it's important for me to kind of bang this one out. So I'll try to do that, or just the idea of what I'm about to say. I think that it's possible that okay, it's a little silly, but the general idea, I'll try to get it out after I read this. I think that it's possible for the lives of the villagers are following a script, and when Keiichi was killing the uncle, that went against what was supposed to have happened. So it doesn't necessarily mean that another Keiichi appeared at the festival, rather everybody acted like Keiichi was there because he was supposed to be there. It could be an answer to why people go into spooky mode. It's just a reaction to the script going off course. Maybe the reason why there are multiple arcs is that the script is constantly... Okay, so let's stop there, because that's sort of a different theory. So basically, it is the idea that that the lives or whatever, the whole event is going off a script, which it is, because it is a book. But it's being meta, like someone wrote the script and every villager should follow it, but for whatever reason Keiichi went against it and killed the uncle. So the other but just because he did it doesn't mean the other characters would change too, if that makes any sense. Like, he went against the script, but according to the script he should have been at the festival, so everybody legitimately thought he was at the festival, and they weren't lying about it, but they actually thought he was there, if that made sense. We talked about the script a lot in this one, but yeah, it's generally, for whatever reason, supernatural. Is it Oyashiro-sama writing the script, or is it the outsider organization organizing everyone to follow the script? Or is it someone else? It could be. It doesn't actually matter. Just the idea that everything is scripted, which happens in a book, but is actually like an actual mechanic in the story, is what I was trying to get across. This is another theory, kind of. Maybe the reason why there are multiple arcs is that the script is constant. Oh yeah. I should go, and explaining the spooky mode is also kind of good to me, because whenever they do go into spooky mode, it is kind of meta, and they do know information that they shouldn't know. And it feels like a different person is talking, like someone else is talking through their mouths with a complete personality change, and it's not, it just feels unnatural, right? Which might be the script or whatever, the writer saying, oh, I know you messed with the script, because we've seen like different personalities, like we've seen in this art specifically an angry Rena, because it's been hinted that Rena might be mentally insane, but that even the angry Rena isn't, it feels like she's legitimately angry, that she might have a couple of screws loose, not to be too mean, but you know, she's definitely a scary person. But in spooky mode, it's just, It's just an unnatural feeling. So I kind of like this idea, if you do like the strip theory, that this might explain the spooky mode stuff too. And maybe it only happens for strip breakers, so that's why in Watanadoshi it never happened to Teichi, because he was following the script of the arc. And if anything, it was the others, Mion/Shion, going against it. That's why all the villagers were helping. That's why like Mion was actually helping you this time. Or not Mion, or Reno was helping you with this one instead of going against you, because you're not the script breaker this time. If that made sense. It's kind of a lot to take into, and it's very meta, but I sort of love it, so so maybe the reason why there are multiple arcs is that the script is constantly being broken and they have to keep resetting the world until it actually follows the script. At this point, I don't know what's going on my mind. Lamau must have put that in post, because that sounds very out there, and I don't necessarily believe that, but that could be a reason why the arts are happening, is because there is a true... No, I don't like this. I actually don't like this. Let's block that out. But if you do like it, just remember that I wrote it. And if it's right, then even though I didn't like it, it's on the sheet. It's on the sheet, so I thought of it eventually. Thought of it somehow. But yeah, I don't really like that reason. Also, I know this... I don't like dragging that. Also, I know this is pretty vague, but the general point of this theory is that Keiichi was not there, but the other people at the festival truly believe that he was there. I also mean that there was no second Keiichi. So yeah, if you look at this in a logical standpoint rather than a meta one, then it's extremely unlikely for there to be a secondary Keiichi. It just doesn't make sense. It's extremely... So it's either everyone is lying or they truly believe that he was there when he was not. And I kind of like this, the latter. It feels better to me. Anyways, but you'll be seeing more scripting stuff in this. I used it a lot, so I just wanted to really, again, get my point across about what that is about, even though the name is kind of self-explanatory. Next, we go into another big one with Teppei's moving corpse. Another big mystery is the fact that the uncle's corpse was not found where Keiichi hid it, and Satoto claims that the uncle never left the house that night. It is good to note that similar ideas from previous theories. It is good to note similar ideas from the previous theory, since they're very closely related. Okay, that does make sense. It's a little awkward, but this goes back to the scripting stuff. So this is... I know I'm not giving too much evidence, but you know, quick line. It's more of a... yeah, I don't know why I said that. It's fine, right? Yeah, so this was a big question, and we did kind of face this in Watanadoshi, and I thought it might be easier for this to be answered, but it's kind of harder because it there's not many, first of all, there's no Teppei twin, so you can't really theorize about body double or whatever. And secondly, it's you don't get too much of it, even though this is like a midpoint. So obviously there's a lot of confirmation stuff that Keiichi could have done, but it never happened, right? But let's continue on to see what I wrote. I'm actually surprised. It's not been so bad reading what I wrote so far. The idea that the villagers following a script can be seen through Satoto's claim that the uncle was always there. When we have both Keiichi's account and Ueshi's group of men stating that they saw him leave that night. So this is very important. This goes back to the scripting idea where Satoto legitimately thought the Anto was there. That's why she freaked out, unless you assume that she was lying, which is, it could be a possibility, but it's also a very cruel answer. So I like the idea that she truly believed he was there. But the important part of this is not only do we have Keiichi's account of the killing, which is nice, but we also have Ueshi's account. And that is extremely important to get another person's perspective, and like that they also have the same information. Because as much as we like Keiichi, there's always the idea that he is a flawed narrator and he could be seeing stuff or whatever. But the fact that we got Ueshi, and not just him, he had a surveillance team monitoring Teppei. So it's almost a matter of fact that he left the house, according to Ueshi's men. That like elevates the claim to pretty much proof at this point. So yeah, that's very, very good for the theory. A good reinforcement. Yeah, just hammer that point because that's a very good piece of information. Because there's not much evidence we get where another party agrees with Keiichi or whatever, right? they usually kind of diss him and stuff, or disprove him, diss him. What am I talking about? Another fair answer would be that Satoto's mind was broken from the previous abuse, so she truly thought he was still abusing him. Maybe she suffered such mental damage that she didn't notice, but it was pretty, I don't know, yeah. Either way, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really hurt the theory. I even say that. Either way, it's more believable that Teppei left, and near the end, Satoto does make the statement where Keiichi killed her uncle along with the other missing people, which is a contradiction to her previous statements. So this refers to when Satoto starts freaking up after the Rika kill and believes Keiichi killed them. She makes the statement that, oh, you killed Takano, you killed Toмотaki, you killed my uncle, and you killed Rika, which is just completely different from her previous statement that the uncle never left. This obviously could be from panic, but it turns out Satoto is actually thinking throughout the whole thing because of what she says later and the later conversations. So I don't know, we'll take that too. If I want to look at it at a more logical way, then the only real answer, so that's just a proof, and this is kind of moving on. So if you want to look at it in a more logical way, then the only real answer is that somebody dug up the corpse and refilled the hole. And this is literally the only answer, right? If you don't want to believe in it being teleported or it being moved away, or I guess if Keiichi never put the body in there, because we did get confirmed that the hole has been dug before. Ueshi's man who was digging the hole just confirmed that it's been dug up before, but I guess that could mean that Keiichi dug up the hole and didn't dump a body in, which is extremely weird. But if you so I guess that could happen. But another probably equally good is that someone actually dug up the corpse, moved it, then refilled the hole. So basically that's my main theory, and I'm going to be talking about it in this upcoming stuff. This would fall in line with the scripting isn't from an entity like Origashiro-sama, but the mystery group, which is the outsider group. I don't know why I changed the name. But this also goes to the idea that when I say scripting, it does sound like some divine stuff, but it can also be like human stuff. Like, what if, again, the outsider group is using Hinamizawa as a test, as an experiment, and maybe they're trying to create a controlling drug where they control you, and they're testing it to make the villagers follow a script. The arts are just experiments gone wrong. and they're breaking free, and maybe when they break free they sort of panic like crazy, and that's why it ends with death. Oh my god, that's a dank theory. I wish I wrote it down, but it's forever in this video, so there you go. Bonus theory that I didn't write down and I just thought up on the spot. It's not bad. But yeah, that's what I was saying. Scripting could be man-made, or it can be some meta stuff. Oh, Yashiro-sama, I don't know, whatever. Whatever, yeah. The only possible person that might have an idea of where the corpse was buried would be Tatano, since she appeared to have a good idea of what Keiichi did that night. I also corrected this since I did remember someone else might know, but yeah, this refers to obviously the two demon showdown when Keiichi and Tatano met, but it seemed like she had a pretty clear idea that at least Keiichi killed someone, and she might have been able to find the spot just by going down the road and looking through the dead stuff, though it still might be hard, but she's really the primary suspect if you do want to go down the road of someone digging up the body and moving the corpse. It again goes with the outsider group, because I still believe that she is part of the outsider group. Yeah, it just made sense. From the information we have, right? You can't like say, oh, what if Mion was secretly watching him? It doesn't really make sense, right? Even though it appears that she died that night, it doesn't really matter, since she could have dug it up after she dropped off Keiichi. So yeah, it doesn't have. We go into that more in the Tatano stuff, which we're gonna do next, so we'll leave that at. Also, in reference to my Watch and Higurashi theories, I have come up with a pretty good idea. Yeah, so this is talking about that, even though she died, in my Watch and Higurashi theory, where I talked about how Tatano's had a moving corpse question, I came up with some theories where she could be alive. The main one being is that just because she's been saying she's Tatano, it doesn't necessarily need to be her, and she's friends with someone with a fake identity, so why couldn't she have one too? And it could have been the real Tatano dead. She could have been just using her identity, or because she's part of the clinic, maybe they do have some sane power with the medical records and they could have switched it. That's basically like the summed up version of the theories. And she was also driving a car, so it's super easy to transport a body. Just load it up and drive off. And this was added like a couple days later, and this is writing over like a week or two's time, so some of the stuff might be different. I might repeat stuff because I don't remember what I wrote, so just a warning, I guess. I just remember that the coach might know about the whereabouts of the body since Keiichi had told him, but it would be a pretty short interval to dig up. That might be false. I don't have the exact times because I'm lazy, but Keiichi did explain the whole situation, so Coach would know where he is, and I do think he's in the outsider group too, so I guess he didn't personally have to do it. But if he did, I don't remember when they said he died. So if someone wants to fill me in with that, I don't want to be needy, but if you want, having the time where he died would be good to know at the time limit, if it was impossible or not. But if you just say that he died sometime at that night or in the morning via suicide, you still should have enough time if he found the location relatively fast, and we also know he has a car. And that, like, a motivation for him, why not? If he's not evil. Not part of the clinic, maybe he really did, like, after Keiichi ran away, maybe he did want to verify it for himself, and once he did discover it, he decided to hide it in a better place because he has a past with the Wishi, right? He wants to be more safe than sorry, because he knows Uishi is a pretty smart guy. So yeah, that's the Teppei stuff. That's what I got. Pretty basic for that, anyways. Moving on, we have the Takano stuff. Not a lot. Huh. Okay. I really did think this would be the arc where more Takano/Tomotaki information gets shared, but obviously it did not. Maybe next arc. Smiley face. No smiley face, but I smiled IRL. But I guess I might as well talk about her since I did make a section about Tomotaki. I think that my theory from watching Higurashi still applies here, where either Takano we know is using the real Takano's alias, or following the hospital theory, they could have faked the results, which I said before. Refer to Wataru Higurashi theory if you want to see that more in detail, and that is the theory sheet where I have an evidence section, so it might be more helpful. I think this is relative because if the Takano in the barrel died exactly the same as Wataru Higurashi, it means that Keiichi met Takano when she was supposed to be deceased. Now this is important because there are differences throughout, but if we do follow the pattern of death from Wataru Higurashi, Takano did die the day before, because that was one of the big reveals that, oh, Takano also died, so how did you talk to her? So if she died the same way, which she was also burned alive in this in the barrel, then that would mean Takano should be deceased when Keiichi met her. Which then goes with saying that maybe Takano's fighting the strip, whatever. That should be a fact. They didn't. I'm like 90% sure that's how it worked out. Let's see what I wrote first before talking about it a bit more. This also supports the scripting stuff, since both Takano and Keiichi tell us that they should have met there and it was an anomaly. This means that Takano could have been looking around where nobody would notice, making her suspect for some of the mystery/crimes. So yeah, it could also be that Takano is a script breaker, so maybe she is supposed to die, and she breaks the script by killing the real one, or whatever you want. Or alternatively, she's actually following the script, but as a the script in the form of the outsider group manipulating it. So she is following the script, but she doesn't actually need to die because she's part of the team, so they just substitute her death somehow per the arc, because she's a valuable resource or whatever. And that's why and when they met, it's not because they were both breaking the script, but because Takano was supposed to already be dead at the time. That's why she was kind of hostile to Keiichi, would be my guess. Also, the last sentence does make the fact that if you do believe Takano is alive, it does make her a viable suspect for a lot of the stuff. I think I do talk about it in the later stuff, but it kind of does make a boogeyman Takano, where she can commit most of the murders off screen because you think she's dead or whatever. So I don't know, I kind of relied on that for a bit of the stuff, but yeah, that's my Takano section. Not too much. I think my Wataru Higurashi theory still stands, and scripting stuff and whatever, boogeyman Takano. Next we have Irie stuff, aka Coach, the boy. Okay. You know, if you've watched the playthrough, you know I'm highly suspicious of the Coach because of my hospital theory/clinic theory, which I just really love, so it's natural. Even though he just was mainly a good guy in this one, I am just always super suspicious. Sorry, I popped a mint in between changing sections. Irie, aka Coach, was suspicious to me pretty much as soon as I met him. There was a lot of things pointing him to be involved in the outsider group, as him being referred to the same as manager in Tatarigoroshi. So this is important. Again, if you didn't, or you slipped around through the playthrough and you didn't catch this, because someone did tell me that someone was trying to fit some of my pronunciation, because I do pronounce characters slash places slash words wrong sometimes, because I'm not a native Japanese speaker, so forgive me for that. But he was also saying that the translations at some points were kind of off, where while we were calling him coach in this, the coach word is actually the same word they used for manager in Onotakashi. So they're not different. They're literally the same word, but they just changed the translation from manager to coach in this one, which kind of got me confused, because when I saw that Shion was the coach of the baseball team, my suspicion immediately turned to her. But no, they're the same word, so they are directly referring to Irie rather than Shion, who is the coach too. Not that I didn't suspect Irie, but it's good to know. So I'm saying that even though I do actually, let's continue. Him joking that he wants to inject people. Oh, what did I do? Him joking that he wants to inject people and make them into his maid. So this was either I don't remember what visit. When Keiichi visited the thing, he did make the joke that, oh, I forgot the context, but he said that he should inject people with drugs and make them into his maids, which is, it's such a, okay, I go into it. Which shows that the author expects you to suspect them and makes a jab at you for it. Then I kind of talked about my philosophy, which I kind of went on before that. I feel like a lot of people reading mystery stuff, which I've kind of seen in Umineko read-throughs, because as a teenager I watched so many of those. But I feel like people generally, when solving mysteries, they like to, when a theory is made in a mystery book, they usually like say, oh, it's a good theory, but the fact that they're saying it means it just can't be true, or whatever. And I just don't understand why. Like, sure, it could be a bait, but I don't think that's reason to like dismiss it, right? Like, I'm like in watching Higurashi, I took theories from the curtain call because they just made sense to me. Like, if it lines up, and if the evidence is there, even if it isn't, if your intuition is there, then you shouldn't be dissuaded because the author is saying, oh, it really could be this person. It's just really, it's almost paranoia to a point. But yeah, they made this joke, which is, again, just putting a big spotlight on him. And even though I feel like some people are like, oh, the fact that they're putting so much emphasis on this character being suspicious, then he probably isn't suspicious. I don't buy that. I don't care. I still think he's suspicious, and they're giving me more feel. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. My little rant on the subject. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I feel slightly strong. Slightly strong? That doesn't make sense. I'm pretty solid on that fact for me. That stance, I guess. And even that added, I still have my hospital/clinic theory, which is like one of my big theories today, and I still really love that theory. And I do hope it gets proven in the answer arc. I'm praying for that, because that's like my baby. But yeah, so it doesn't matter if they, it doesn't matter if they do all this stuff. I would have suspected him anyways. He's already in my target line of sight. Yeah. On the subject of his suicide, I have a couple of ideas. None of them feel that good though. That's self-defeating. What did I write? The first was that the idea that he found Teppei's corpse. After hiding it, he committed suicide. feeling guilty about betraying Keiichi. This isn't a bad take. This is the take where, again, you think Irie is not a bad person. And it goes with the Teppei corpse theory where Irie moved the corpse. But, like, maybe after he moved the corpse, he was like, oh no, because I didn't help Satoko, one of my, I don't know if he was a student, but a child literally killed someone because I wasn't strong enough to take action myself. You know, not killing, but actually somehow helping Irie, or helping Satoko in an adult way. Well, I just murdered into an adult way too, but you know. And then he felt guilty and killed himself. Which made sense. Like, suicide typically is a very, well, I don't know. You usually don't, unless he's like, I mean, yeah, whatever. You get the point. I don't know what I was trying to say. Sorry, my voice is losing it. I don't know how long it's been, because I like to, because after a session I usually take like a sip of water. But it's probably been a bit. Don't worry, we're like halfway through. Okay, let's continue. Another reason could have been that he knew that the arc ran off strip, so he had no reason to be there and killed himself waiting for the next arc. Big XD there. Sorry. Yeah, so this would go with the idea that they're scripting it himself, and however you soft reset it, whatever, he's like, oh, this experiment's failed. I might as well just wait up for the next experiment. And that's why he killed himself. I don't know, like that, but it's a little bold. Finally, he could have known about the disaster since he died sleeping like the rest of the villagers. Maybe somehow he's part of the reason it happened, and he decided to kill himself as repentance. I really like this one. You don't necessarily need the last part where he helped it and killed himself in repentance, but maybe he knew that it was coming and it couldn't be stopped, either via some sort of influence stopping the authorities from acting fast or whatever. So it's like, if everyone's gonna die, I might as well die too. And if everyone's gonna die sleeping, I might as well die too. It's a very good connection. Like, there's a good connection to Irie committing suicide via sleeping pills with the sleeping, everyone dying in their sleep through the disaster. So you can connect those two, I guess. Also, I didn't mention it in this one, but the hospital story theory still stands since Keiichi did go into a medical facility and probably did get some shots, so we're golden there. We're golden there, boys. But yeah, Irie is a suspicious man. Naturally. Alright, Oishi stuff. Let's get into the big bad cop himself. Oishi ended up missing in the arc, which is interesting since nothing usually happens to him. Like, nothing bad happens to him that we know of, besides maybe his rank as a police officer goes down or something. But he disappeared without a trace. Keiichi believes he's dead from a curse, but we never get a confirmation that he did die. So he's missing. Not much new information was revealed to him about this arc, except that he used to hound the Hojo family, Satoko in particular, a lot in the past. So yeah, we knew that he was very adamant about the Sonozaki family, but this was the first time we got him. We learned that he was also very adamant about, very aggressive with the Hojo family, so that was interesting. Which is kind of a thing, I guess, since it also showed that he was pretty interested in Rena too, so He's been hounding the club members in particular, which is interesting. And the Stopa things, because obviously we know that the club members are kind of sketchy, but like an outsider, like maybe Neon, but everyone else is kind of odd, right? Which means that he might have been involved with Satoshi's disappearance. I don't know what the bracket is though. Yeah, let's continue on. A wild theory would be that he helped cover up the fact Satoshi committed the murder as some sort of deal. Which made sense. I think I've covered this before. But Satoshi, it's fairly certain. I don't know. It's like a good chance that Satoshi did commit the murder, but for some reason the police arrested some other person. So my idea is maybe somehow since Oishi's been following this family, they somehow struck a deal where Oishi would let Satoshi kill the person and cover up for him. And I don't know what Oishi would get in return, but I kind of like that. It's like one of the easier ways to, if you do think Satoshi was the murderer, because then you need to explain why someone else was arrested for it. So yeah, that's like the Oishi tapes, honestly. Also, he seems to know a lot about Irie and dislikes him, which might mean that he was a target of investigation in the past, which is interesting. Maybe well, it's probably certain that Irie might have meddled with the Hojo investigation, but maybe Oishi's investigated Irie too. That's why he's so aggressive to him. We don't exactly know. Not too big on that point, honestly. As for why Sashao's car disappeared, the stripling theory works because he also acknowledges Teppei left the house, which was off stripped, and someone dealt with that accordingly. Maybe Tatano. Again, stripping stuff. Because of Teppei, he also knew that Teppei was missing, which was off the strip, and he kind of suspected Keiichi too of committing the murder, which would not, even though it doesn't line up with it's not good for Keiichi, but it's also not good for the whole villagers who were convinced that he was at the festival too. So maybe it was dealt with like that, and then maybe by Tatano, Boogeyman Tatano. Don't really have too much on Oishi the start, except for the fact that he was acting more hardcore than usual. Like, he was pretty brutal. Like, normally the Oishi does have this sort of presence where he is intimidating, but he felt like extra brutal in this one for some reason. Like, low-key torturing Keiichi when he was digging up the corpse. Oh, say they didn't find his body, which means he could be alive, so he kind of can sort of take the position of Tatano and be a suspect for the murders, but I don't have good motivations for him like I do with Tatano. So he could also be a boogeyman. Maybe he did commit some of the stuff. Maybe they were both acting independently and committing some of the stuff. Who knows? It's a lot of min-maxing that I didn't really think about. And again, it's easy to say since they don't have an alibi, since they may or may not be dead. You can say, oh, they did it because who knows where they are, right? I don't exactly like that stuff though. Is that it? Oh yeah, that's all for Oishi. That's the most you can take out of it, with maybe he had some sort of partnering with Satoshi for a bit. I'm not exactly confident with that either, but it's something. That's probably, again, his connection with the Hojo stuff is probably the best thing we got out of it for him. Yeah. So next I talk about the Tatarigoroshi style murders, which is obviously, well, we go over it. Let's see what I wrote. In this art, there are 2 Tatarigoroshi style murders, killing according to the old rituals, the victims being Teppei's girlfriend and Rika. So this is like the dismemberment ritual they do to to control the people of Hinamizawa / as enjoyment or whatever, but the disemboweling stuff. So there's been 2 stuff, and you might have forgotten, but Teppei's girlfriend got disemboweled, and I temporarily forgot that until I remembered Rita, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of weird. Oh wait, Teppei also happened. So that one's kind of important to note. Might be overlooked since that's literally like the first thing that happened, right? The style... Okay. Sorry. I'm trying to concentrate. My throat's... but I can't stop. The style of the murder is synonymous with the Sonozaki family and Oyashiro-sama. Obviously, the Sonozakis were the ones who committed the murders, and it is like a present to Oyashiro-sama. I think it means that either one of the Sonozakis did it. Also, I guess, to commit the murder, you probably would need some sort of training to do it cleanly, or something, or some experience doing it before, so they're the most likely candidates for committing the murder. So either they did it, someone is making it seem like they did it, or non-Sonozaki is doing it for ritual purposes. So that might be confusing, but I'm basically saying someone from the Sonozakis did it, someone else did it, but the fact that they killed him like that is meant to put the suspicion on the Sonozaki family. So that was their goal. Maybe their goal was to kill the person, but they also had a goal of putting it on the Sonozaki family, because like I said before, once you see that style of killing, you think of the Sonozaki family, right? Or someone was doing it that's not a Sonozaki, but doing it for the ritual purpose of pleasing Oyashiro-sama. So Mion does make the claim that they don't do that anymore, and it's an old style theory, or old style tradition, but maybe someone who's more attuned with the old style, which I've probably talked about. I already see I do talk about it. Could do it. That's not a Sonozaki. Takano. I think that's like the most likely murder Takano would commit if she was the boogeyman. But we'll talk about it a bit more. But first we talked about Teppei's, because this was like the best one for me out of the 2. Yeah, I had more solid ideas for Teppei's girlfriend, not Teppei himself. The theory I liked most for Teppei's girlfriend, with the perpetrator being Mion. That doesn't make sense, but so Mion is the perpetrator for Teppei's death in this theory. In my Watch Higurashi theories, I said that Mion was in opposition to the outsider group, hence why Rena wasn't doing creepy mode and helping her. So there's a lot of reasons why Mion could have done it, but maybe she is against the outsider group. And since I've been thinking about all the scripting stuff, you can connect it by saying Mion was going against the script by killing different people. So again, this is assuming Mion knows a lot, and she does. She is the heir to the Sonozaki family, so I wouldn't be surprised if this was a man-made script, or even if it was a divine script. Maybe she is against it. Or Shion. You can replace this with Shion. I'm just saying Mion because I still believe that she did all this stuff in Watch Higurashi, but if you don't, it's the same. It might even go more with Shion, since Shion doesn't really like the Hinamizawa tradition anyways. This could be another attempt by Mion/Shion to go against the script or the outsider group. Same thing. By bringing Teppei into the village. So the reason, if we do go by scripting, the only reason why Kichi does go off script is because it all goes back to Teppei actually coming to the village. So that's pretty interesting. We'll go over all the theories though, because they all kind of have the same motivation. Another theory would be that Shion did it with the motivation to make Satoto suffer. Since it was revealed that Shion might have had feelings for Satoshi, she could have blamed Satoto for for his disappearance. By going... Okay. So this is also a decent theory, because we get the idea that Shion Satoshi might have been a thing. We get that phone call, which I still believe Shion made, and I didn't note it in this one. Actually, I think I did actually talk about it in a later theory. So this would go, so this could have been revenge for Satoshi's disappearance, because whatever happened to him, it did start with Satoshi killing the ant. So it could have been some sort of revenge against poor little Satoto. And I don't necessarily believe this, but this, if you do go by this, Shion actually having a big enough grudge against Satoto to be willing to commit a crime, then you could also look back into Higurashi, where Mion, quote unquote Mion, had like a weird rant about Satoto being a cursed child and everyone disappears around her, which was like kind of out there and never really explored. You could say that Mion did it, or Shion did it, because of her hatred for Satoto, if this theory is correct, which is a little sad. Hopefully it's not. No bully. Even if it's neither of these two theories, I think whoever committed the murder was trying to bring Teppei to Hinamizawa. So yeah, that's the main point. I think the reason why the murders happened was to bring Teppei to Hinamizawa. It could have been like a warning from the Sonozakis to get away, but then or it could have backfired, I guess. But that's what I think anyways. Like, if it is some sort of scripting thing, they brought Teppei to Hinamizawa, so the script gets broken. And yeah, I think that's the main motivation. Or if you want to take it into a weird way, it's like the Sonozakis did it to say, oh, we're watching you, Teppei. And then he moves into the village anyways. I don't know. I'm confusing myself by thinking of alternatives. That's what I think though. I think this is a good key point that I should carry on for later. That this might be one of the better pieces of theory, even though it's like very short. And for Rita, I don't really have a confident idea. I guess you could use both Mion and Shion theory, and that would sort of fit the motivations. So it's almost, you can almost recycle the two. Mion going against the script, killing Rita obviously shouldn't be part of the script. So that fits. And Shion killing Rita would be torture for Satoto too, and also fits her revenge ideas. And also Takano could have done it for some ritual stuff. Oops, I did it again. For Teppei's girlfriend, or for whatever, like if you talk about ritual stuff and Takano, then it fits her character. I think we did go about it in the disaster one, but also Takano killing Rita is sort of something because she said she does. Actually, we'll go into it for the disaster, but if a non-Sonozaki was gonna do the murder in the Watanabe style, then I would think it is Takano, who has been researching the Sonozakis and who could be a killer, right? I also didn't mention this, but I might as well. Another hot take is maybe Takano killed Tomotaki, and maybe that's why he was so shocked in the previous one, because Takano did it. And that's why Takano had Tomotaki's bike in his car and couldn't open the trunk, because that's where Tomotaki's body is. I don't know why I put it. I feel like he said that in the playthrough, but there you go. Bonus theories. Only for you. Next we have the big disaster. The big climax I was not expecting to happen. This arc has a pretty tragic ending, with the whole village dying from that gas explosion. I think it's a bit stretch to claim that people were able to manufacture that, but if I had to go down the route, then the outsider group can make a mysterious drug creating a big chemical reaction gas bomb isn't far out. Yeah, so I do think the idea that somebody manufactured that is weird. I'm not a chemistry expert. Maybe, again, these people who are maybe able to make a drug to create, to manipulate people are able to do that, but it just seems very, very out there. Or I guess since I talked about Satoko Smelly, maybe Satoko did it. Nothing's impossible for the Trap Master. The Trap Master herself. I think it's more likely that people had knowledge that it might have a chance to occur / will occur on that date. So this is better. That maybe people knew it was coming rather than people actually creating it. I think that the fact everybody in a position to be able to stop it or at least reduce the damage of the disaster was not available at the time does seem very fishy. So when they were explaining what was happening, it was almost comedic how bad it went on the rescue side of things. Just like the government, politicians, police officers, whatever, everyone that could have helped save people were either sleeping, busy, I don't know, doing something else. And it just seems so fishy like that literally everybody was doing something different and stopping the progress. Yeah, that was very weird. The only group of people that I can think of that would be able to manipulate higher ups like that is the Sonozakis, but that doesn't really make sense. Yeah, as for people with power up to the government standard is the Sonozakis. But again, they're the watchdogs of Hinamizawa. Why would they do it? I don't think that they would interfere with saving their village. If anything, I mean, maybe they're like, oh, if this village is going down, everyone might as be wiped out or whatever. I don't know. I don't think so though. Maybe the outsider group has some reach, but since they haven't been formally introduced, it's hard to say. Yeah, I mean, then they're making drugs and stuff. Maybe they do have some backers to do it, but that's even a farther out hit than the Sonozakis, I think. And I didn't mention it, but maybe the government planned it itself and it was some sort of conspiracy that they were plotting after Tomodachi died. They're like, oh no, our spy died. It's too dangerous. Let's just let the place die. I don't hate it. This theory is spicy though. This upcoming one I really do like, which is part of the previous section. I do think it's a plausible idea. I do think a plausible idea would be that Tatano knew this was going to happen and killed Rika according to the information from the final hint, where Rika was the incarnation of Oyasho-sama, and if she died, the village would be doomed. So yeah, you get this hint. You get sort of what they're telling you what the reason could have been. And again, you would think Tatano would be the one to do it. Who else is going to do it? Oishi, maybe he hates the village, I don't know. But I think Tatano doing it is really good. It falls up right their alley. Yeah, okay, that's just what I said before. It could also be bait, and the author purposely wrote it like that to make you assume it was Tatano. It wasn't in a journal entry, I believe it was just text. So the fact it might not have been Tatano, and this could be a bait pointing to Tatano, but I don't know if people would assume Tatano was alive at that point anyways. That might just be my thoughts on it. But it doesn't matter, because they knew the... But either way, I do think the person who killed Rika would be for that motivation. So while I locked in my answer for why they killed Teppei, I will lock in my answer and say that they killed Rika because they knew it was coming. And maybe people researching it in the future in the story, of course, would be like, oh, that's why it happened. Maybe it was like a fanatic of the history, which again could be Sonozaki's, but I don't know if they would want to kill the village. Or it could be Takano. Those are like my main two suspects. But alternatively, also the idea that the disaster was caused by Rita is disproved by the fact that she died in Watanabe and nothing occurred. So yeah, Rita died in Watanabe and there's no disaster. So that either disproves it or it proves that Rita didn't die and Mion and Shion lied about it. I don't know if they ever identified the body. If they did, then, you know, feel free to correct me. And if they did, that would mean that it doesn't matter if Rita is killed, because that won't. That's not why the disaster happened. So yeah, that's what I have for it. We don't really have a reason why it happened. Again, I don't think someone manufactured it or anything. But a couple of reasons, a couple of theories about it, I guess. It's not bad. Next, we have Footsteps, which I really hated. I hated this one. I didn't like this one at all, honestly. Especially going originally into it, that's why it's so far down, because I didn't think of much stuff. Let's see what I wrote though, maybe I liked it better. One of the mysteries in the series was the sound of footsteps following Keiichi around after committing the murder. Going along with the scripting idea, the non-human variant, it could be Oyashiro-sama following him for breaking the script. Sure. So we know, I think I say it later, but I do not think that an actual human was following Keiichi. This is just a little ridiculous. Like, there's not gonna be a human who follows him and freaking jumps into a bush or disappears when he looks back, right? Excuse me. So I do think if you do want to go for an omnipotent script theory, then Oyashiro-sama following him made sense, because if I mean, Oyashiro-sama's not gendered, right? It might have been gendered, I forgot. Oh, isn't it a girl? Maybe it's a girl. Whatever gender Oyashiro-sama is, knows Keiichi is breaking a script, and that's why she is following him. It's something, I guess. In terms of a non-superstitious theory, I can't imagine a person actually following him somehow. Again, I said that. I think maybe it's a mental thing. Since he was super paranoid, somebody would find out that he killed somebody. So I think this is best logical thing, is that, again, Keiichi was, obviously is not as paranoid as in Anotakashi, but this all happened after he killed someone, and when this feeling of getting caught starts to set in, this could just be a reaction to his fear of getting caught. I think that's like a pretty reasonable take. A more meta theory would be that it this part's a meme. I like it though. Let's see what you guys think of this. A more meta theory would be that it's nostalgia, since some sort of repetition is happening in the story itself. It could be before Anotakashi, he committed the same actions, and the footsteps are a way of remembering it. I don't even know how to explain it. It's pretty much what I'm writing. What if the footsteps is himself in a past experience doing the same thing? And he's remembering it, and that's why it's eerie to him, because he's already done it. But in this art, you wouldn't remember doing it, because it's soft reset. I don't know. Another important thing to note that in Anotakashi, Keiichi experienced feelings that somebody was behind him only once, so for some reason it was following him in this arc. So this is actually good to know. So Keiichi did have a similar experience that someone was behind him. He swung his bat and like destroyed his doorway, but he never really had that again. Or he might have had it once or twice, but it never followed him like it did in this one. So I don't really have a trigger for why. Maybe it's because he actually killed someone, but I don't think it was... Or maybe that could be a good explanation to why he broke down in Anatatashi, because he saw what was following him, and that's why he went crazy and clawed out his own throat. That's kind of dank. There you go, another dank theory. But yeah, maybe there's some sort of trigger to look for. Maybe it is killing too. Also, there was a loud banging in the storehouse that Shion and Tomotaki maybe Tatano could hear, but not Keiichi. And this is in Watanashi, because they didn't have that person following them, but there was this loud banging which Keiichi didn't hear, which is still interesting. I don't know what it could have been. But yeah, Shion and Tomotaki definitely heard it, and Tatano, like, I believe she might have heard it. She didn't say she did, but it's Tatano, right? Don't know how to connect these pieces. We'll leave it for the final theory sheet. There we go. Let's just leave it alone. That's the best I have. I don't hate some of them. This nostalgia thing is kind of whack. But the paranoia is probably my best one for that. Or maybe the omnipotent scripting stuff. I don't know how to feel about it. Anyways, next we have Passage of Time. What's on the board this time? The idea of how the arts are happening has been a question of mine for a while now. I still believe that a soft reset is occurring when the arts exist in a timeline and are connected, rather than a hard reset like Umineko. So this is me explaining how the arts are. So when I say soft reset, I mean that they coexist between each other. So Ani Takashi and Watanashi both happened in the same timeline, is what I'm trying to say. Maybe they didn't happen in chronological order, but I do believe if you do it by chronological, Anatatashi happened, then somehow Watanashi happened, then somehow Tatarigoroshi happened. So I think there's actual passage of time in the universe, rather than in Umineko where there's like a pocket universe was created for each arc. Because unlike I don't mention it, but unlike, because in Umineko you actually get an answer to what's happening, and in this one, because there's no crazy freaking witch battle or whatever mystery solving battle, I think a more natural idea of it happening and times actually passing in the same universe rather than pocket dimensions make more sense to me anyways. Sorry, so much talking I guess makes me burp. I think the biggest nod to the soft reset theory in the arc was the fact that it rained during the day of the festival. If this was a hard reset, besides character actions, the setting should be the same. So this is important. The fact that the environment changed is huge in the idea that it's not just a pocket dimension with the same setting. It's like if Umineko happened and instead of a typhoon it was like a sunny day or something. Like, it doesn't make sense if it's just a continuation of the same year and the same date. How would it rain if it's the same year and the same date every time? It shouldn't rain. So that's why I think, I don't know what the passage of time is, but because the fact that it did rain means that time is actually passing. I think that's the strongest piece of evidence so far in all of the arts for this, so I was super happy when that happened. Most of the art has focus on looking at the big picture, which we talked about before. And again, I maintain my idea of a soft reset. I like it better. The rain really strengthens it. And yeah, I'm pretty confident about that. How is the soft reset happening? I don't know. It's a soft reset. That's what I think. Is it man-made? Is it God-made? I don't know. Just give me enough credit for calling it a soft reset. If it is, if it's a hard reset, I'll be kind of sad. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Alright, so this is an interesting theory that I kind of made because I thought that in the last chapter, the backgrounds looked different on my read-through than what it looked like before, but after looking at it again, they look the same. And that being said, I didn't look really hard, so maybe there is some differences. So this isn't really a hint. I mean, it's kind of a hint, but I'm just lazy. So if you do want to correct me on this, because this whole theory is basically just on that point, so I do make note of that it might just be a useless theory. But yeah, let's read it first. This theory originally came from the idea near the end when Keiichi was walking through Hinamizawa. The background scene looked slightly different, but after a quick look through, it doesn't seem the case, which really hurts the theory, but I might as well say it anyways. The theory would be that Keiichi was never living in Hinamizawa in the first place, since the fact is that Keiichi shouldn't have survived if he was knocked out. The only thing that I can think of is somebody moved in there. So this is an important thing to note, even though this is a meme theory. A question that I guess I didn't really face too much in this theory sheet is, how did Keiichi survive the poison gas when it should have just killed him if he really was knocked out for a day? And I think the question is, the only logical answer really is somebody moved him out. But I think that would mean that he wasn't in Hinamizawa and someone moved him to the river where the poison gas was happening. So maybe he was, I don't know. What I'm saying is the poison gas isn't going to happen to where he was, the whole arc was playing off, and then he got moved to where the poison gas would happen. What does this mean? I don't know. It's a meme theory, baby. But if it's right, that would be super spicy. There are a lot of thoughts by Keiichi where he thinks he was in a twisted version of Hinamizawa. This would probably be thought more as a metaphor, but I don't hate the idea of him literally being moved to a different Hinamizawa. This could be an interesting theory to explore further, and I could see it being used in other arts, where at some point in the story, maybe he was originally in Hinamizawa, and some place when he was sleeping, I don't know, if he fainted, he got put into a twisted version of Hinamizawa. It's a fun theory. There's literally no evidence for it, but that's why it's a meme theory. So we're at the last one. This one it's a rabbit hole. I put it as meme-ish because I kind of like it, but there really is no evidence for this one, and even though it looks like I wrote fairly a lot, you can literally just type pages of this because it's too much. And I'm pretty sure it's probably hard to read if you're not following along, so I will try to guide you through some of my thoughts on the comatose theory. I forgot who mentioned this in the art, so I can't credit him sure. It was probably Keiichi. But the idea that Keiichi is in an unconscious state and all of this was in his head. So it's the theory. I think it was probably Keiichi. I'd imagine it was Keiichi that this isn't happening. He's in a coma. This is all in his head, is the theory. And you can see why this might make sense with some of the supernatural and unexplainable stuff. And I don't think I mentioned it all, but I'll go through some of the reasons why this could work. But at the same time, it's just it's a theory you can't really prove or disprove, but I can think of some good explanations for it. There's so many variants of how it could work. Added later. God, this is a rabbit hole. That's what I just said. It's a big rabbit hole. So I would think it's not too good to dig through deep into this, but it is really fun thinking of it, and I have some spicy stuff for this. So the original theory that I thought of with this is that Ch.3 was in a coma for all of them, and all of these are basically fragmented ideas from the original. Whatever happened in the original, parts of Anatatashi, parts of Watanedashi, and parts of Tatarigoroshi are all bits and pieces of the truth, and Ch.3 is sort of piecing them together in this as a coma. Alternatively, maybe Ch.3 actually went into a coma in one of the arts, and the next arts would be I'm not gonna read because it's better to explain. This is just jumbled stuff. So another theory is, instead of it being all three arts, maybe at the end of Anatatashi, Ch.3 went into a coma and just imagined Watanedashi and Tatarigoroshi, and in the same way it could have been. I also think the idea of Ch.3 did Anatatashi, went into a coma at the end of Watanedashi, and this is just a coma after Watanedashi is also an idea. So there's like multiple stuff you can do with it. Obviously, if you do say that Anatatashi at the end, instead of where it said he died, he just went into a coma, then that would mean Watanedashi is just pieces of Anatatashi changed, but it's kind of weird since Watanedashi is so different. But if you do it that way, then it would mean like Shion isn't a real person, and this is a good one. If Watanedashi was a coma and Shion wasn't a real person, then it could be like Shion's just another version of Mion that Ch.3 created as sort of a filter for not accepting Mion to be an evil person, so they can make only one of them evil and one of them good, essentially. Could be a thing. That's why Reno is helpful. But if you go with the coma stuff, then that means there's not really much. Actually, no, never mind. I was trying to say there's not really much twists, but if he's in like a dreamlike state, maybe he can't control it, and again, these are more memories. But I really do. Well, I like either that he was in a coma for the all three one. That might sound the best, but I also really like the idea that Anatatashi happened, then a soft reset happened, then Watanedashi happened, but instead of a soft reset, Ch.3 just went into a coma. Because in Anatatashi they do say he's dead, which might not be true, but that's what they say. In Watanedashi, it just kind of ends without anything happening. So it flows a bit better if you do want to say that it happened within an arc. And if you go by that, then that's why it's so similar to Anatatashi. And this is how you connect all of the arcs without explaining the soft reset. Is Watanedashi happened, he went into a coma, and then because he's in a coma, he's remembering Anatatashi, which he shouldn't be remembering because it's soft resetted. So yeah, Watanedashi actually happened, and for some reason he's remembering Anatatashi but mixing up the events. That's why Shion's in it, because he's met Shion. That's why there's a lot of similarities to the tone of Anatatashi. Like there's, again, the footsteps come back, the presence of someone behind him comes back. The big chase, instead of him being chased, he's the chaser. I mentioned it throughout the playthrough, just a lot of things that seem a lot like Anatatashi, and that really connects them together. Maybe a problem is Irie's existence, because he's a new character and we don't really have a model for him. But maybe Teichi did meet the, because Teichi does blackout in on Tatarigoroshi, so maybe he did meet the manager slash coach, and maybe that is like the characterization that Teichi gives him as Irie. Sorry, I'm literally dying by burping. It's too much for my body to handle. Too much IQ is going through my brain right now. My bodily functions are shutting down. But yeah, it's kind of spicy. And even after all of this, there's still there's more you can go into it. Like maybe this isn't just a natural coma, maybe it's actually a controlled coma by the outsider group. Maybe the experiments is actually in Teichi's mind. If you go by he was always in a coma, to see like maybe they're trying to find out what happened in the real, like maybe there was a bad Hinamizawa accident and they're trying to find out what was happening by exploring Teichi's memories or something like that. There's just so much you can talk about, and it's really fun, but at the same time it's not exactly the best thing to do, because it's just too open. But we reached the end. This was fun. I enjoyed this. I think taking a more casual approach instead of being very hardcore with this is fine. And I still think I do give reasonable theories and backing them up with decent logic. Might not be solid facts, but decent logic about it, right? Again, people have been reminding me a lot that this isn't Umineko, and I acknowledge that, obviously. The author doesn't expect you to solve everything. It's more of a thriller with mystery elements. But at the same time, it's fun. Again, I'm not doing this because I'm forcing myself to solve the mystery. I'm doing this because it's fun. So I had a lot of fun doing this theory sheet. Hopefully you enjoyed. Again, if you ever want to talk about anything in this theory, I'm willing to answer it. If you don't, and you just want to leave me to my own creators and wonder about it, then that's fine too, you know. Giving me that completely blind look through it is also something interesting. It's gonna be weird not having unless he comes back, but I don't know if he will. The guy writing a couple document page questioning me, but it's also kind of a relief. So if you enjoyed, thank you. I will be starting the next arc relatively soon, and then I guess after that I will be doing more theories since it's a shorter arc. And since it's the last one, maybe I should be choosing some of my favorite theories from Tatarigoroshi, Watanashi, and this one, and putting them on there, just hoping that they will be either correct or answered or whatever in the answer arcs. So hopefully you enjoyed this long video. It was a pleasure, and see you later. Bye. Have fun looking at angry Satoko. She's ugly but cute. Yeah, thank you for watching.